Good afternoon, everybody here at the ODA. I know this is a few minutes earlier than 12:30, but I am just going live because I wanted to check all the tech and give everybody a couple of minutes to come on and join in this conversation. So how are we all doing today? I hope everybody is fine. You will find that there is opportunity to chat and ask questions, and I can see most of the chat coming through. Just going to see if I can open this on my mobile actually, so I can see the chat that is coming through on our Facebook page, which is great. Here we go. So this is going live here in the group. I can see a few eyeballs joining me. Do feel free to say hello. Let me know where you are, where you're tuning in from before we start the live. I'm just checking I can see myself fine. Now it is live there. Okay. I'm just turning that down. There you go. I'm in duplicate and I can see comments. So that is cool. So if there are any comments that come up, please just type them in and I can see them down there. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining me on this Lunchtime Live. We're keeping these Lunchtime Lives going. I hope you enjoyed Sarah's fantastic Facebook 10 mistakes you are definitely making or probably making with Facebook last week. If you missed it, you can catch it because it is still in our Lunchtime Live directory, which you will find in the group, or you can just scroll through the posts and you'll find it there. But that was sensational. And I have to say, having taken a few of my team through that Facebook ads refresher course, full course that Sarah did as a refresher, it was a total game changer because everything has changed. Everything has changed. And yes, we were making those mistakes. So everybody makes them. Really easy to make those mistakes. So if you're coming in, do say hello. Let me know who's here. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Just say hi. Let's make this a nice, friendly, informal chit-chat conversation all about blogging and why blogging is still a key component of your content marketing strategy. So before we get started, just a very quick introduction to me. My name's Michelle Carvill. For those of you that don't know me, I am one half here of the Online Digital Academy, along with the fantastic Sarah Kerrigan. And together we have, committed a lot of our training and experience and digital experience over the last 10, 15 years, bringing all of that to the Online Digital Academy, where we create online courses, but we also share a lot of free advice. So if you're here, say hi. And let me know who's joining. Good, great to see so many eyeballs joining me today. But I don't know who you are. So it's really cool. If you say hi, just drop a hi in the comments and hopefully I will get to see those at some point. You might all be desperately doing that. Hi, Michelle, it's me. And I can't see the comments. So let me turn the comments on here. Let me see if I can see any comments here. Good afternoon. No comments coming through. Okay, don't worry about it. I'm not going to get upset. But if you want to post comments, you most certainly can. And I am just going to turn on comments here. Okay, so let's get started with the topic blogging, a key component of your content marketing strategy. Hello, Nicole. Nice to see you here. Great. Thank you. It is working. So when people type in, I can see. So yeah, great to have you here. So what are we talking about today, this afternoon? We are talking about blogging. So tell me, if the comments will come through, if you are blogging. Thank you, Nicole. I have at least one comment now. That's always good. I can see that the comments are working. So are you blogging? Nicole, tell me if blogging is a typical component of your content marketing strategy. Because it was quite interesting. One of my team, we do some work, obviously we manage social media for some of our clients in Carvill Creative. And one of my team was talking to the client about blogging, and great, Nicole, it absolutely is a key component. Brilliant. And so she was saying about what are the best ways and tips to optimize. Have we got an article I can send to the client, because the client kept making regular errors with their blogs. They just weren't adding in any links. They weren't doing any sign-offs. They were writing in big, thick bulks of text, which is very difficult on the eye to read, even more so now, if we're looking on video. So there was just lots of basic things. And I said, we must have some content out there that I've done over the years about blogging. I used to teach a whole course about blogging. So I've probably blogged and blogged and blogged about it. Anyway, I did a bit of searching in the Carvill blog, and up came a blog from 10 years ago. And I thought, oh my goodness, that must need a whole load of updating. So let's have a look at that, and I'll update it. And I have updated it, and I've put it on the ODA blog. Very different. It's not duplicate content. I've made sure I've changed the things enough. But it was interesting because as I was going through the points, there weren't that many changes between what was happening in 2010 with blogging and what is happening now. But of course, there's been a lot of changes. So it just shows you that some of the tips and some of the ideas that have been shared are pretty timeless. So I'm going to go through some of those with you as well. I started blogging probably 12 years ago, and I started blogging, and it was really the business of being social, which was the first book that I wrote with David Taylor, was really easy to write purely because I'd been blogging so much. So I'd blogged all about the social channels. I'd blogged all about digital strategy. I'd blogged about social media strategy. I'd blogged about content marketing. I'd blogged about, what was coming next into the future and lots of things. So of course, the book, I'm not saying it wasn't a lot of hard work, it still was, but I had a lot of great raw material to start with. And that was really, my blog was always positioned about being helpful, being useful. So what is your blog positioned as? So blogs can be many things. Back in the day, blogs have been used for people to rant. Blogs have been used to share ideas. And blogs really gave the everyman the opportunity to get the word out. And then, of course, brands and organizations started to share them and started to use them as a key tool to, again, share insights and knowledge about what was going on. So a lot of frequently asked questions, for example, were sometimes very, very difficult to find and weren't positioned in the most user-friendly way for the end user. And so they could all be repositioned and turned into blogs. So organizations started using blogging for lots of different reasons, and lots of blogs became lots of different things. And then there were blogs that became content farms that were just purely all to do with search engine optimization. And of course, that started to put all of us off kind of blogging, because it kind of was starting to go down a funny trajectory where really people were writing more for robots than human beings. Fortunately, we seem to have come full circle, and thanks to the Google algorithms and algorithms not enjoying those things and stamping that out, then people are back to sharing great story, great content. So your blog can be useful for your organic content. Your blog can just be equally as useful for your paid content, to be utilizing, and particularly on things like sponsored campaigns on LinkedIn. Your blog posts, I mean, we do tests around what gets the most traction. Is it the video? Is it the ad? Is it a blog post? And more often than not, the blog post that we are sharing as part of an advertising campaign to share advice and insights is so much more engaged than the video or the static kind of ad. So again, it's something for you to test, because blogs, in my view, shouldn't be about promotion, like anything. Like, it's a social endeavor, isn't it? It's about being useful. It's about sharing your knowledge. And I always say that whatever you are writing, whenever you are writing a blog, always have at least one key takeaway for the reader, because that is what if you can give the reader value, then they're going to come back to you again as a trusted, well, that was really useful. I'm going to go back and start to trust their content. So think about the content you yourself go back to. Think about the content that you think was useful, and it's usually because it has been useful or entertaining in a different trajectory, but for blogging. So Nicole, a blog post can also generate lots of smaller social media posts. Yes, it can, and a blog can be many, many things. I think when I've talked about blogging with clients, they often say, I'm not very good at writing. You're okay, Michelle, you've written books. Well, no, I was blogging before I wrote books. And if anybody's read any of my books, you'll note that all of my books have a very conversational flow, just as if we're having this conversation now, because that is the kind of blogging tone of voice. You are talking to your audience, having a conversation, opening a conversation, enjoying giving advice and sharing. And there is a kind of tonality when blogs are very formal and very white paperish and, go on for 25 pages. Nobody really wants to read that stuff. So yes, blogging can be many, many things. And blogging, yes, once upon a time was mainly about, the long form written word. But of course it's evolved, and social media was once upon a time, as Nicole has rightly said, was in the early days, 10 years ago, Twitter was known as microblogging, because you were basically taking those little stories and insights and sharing them in a micro way more frequently. So your blog can be many things. It's good for your organic. It's good for your paid. It is still good for search engine optimization, and for lots of different reasons, because it isn't just all about keyword stuffing your content and making sure it's got enough keywords in it, because the search engine algorithms have all got savvy to a lot of that. But yes, of course, you still need to let the search engines know what that piece of content is about, so that if somebody is typing in, I'm looking for information about rare green frogs, and you've just done a blog on information about rare green frogs, the algorithms can match that so that you are found. So absolutely, you need to be thinking about how it's going to be found, but how it's going to be found and read and engaged with and shared by humans, which is so much more important. Because the human signals, the sharing, the liking, the commenting will bode far more positive for you now in your search engine optimization opportunity than just keyword stuffing did all those years ago. So yes, it's useful for that. It's also a really, really, really useful customer service resource. So one of the clients that we work for, they get asked lots and lots of questions on social media, and we see these questions coming through, and time again, as part of their community management will go out and be answering these questions. And then every period, monthly, we have our kind of team meetings, and we talk about what came up, and this came up, and this came up again, and this came up again, and came up again. So why don't we create a blog, and let's sit that blog on your website? Because if all these customers are asking that question, there's probably lots of other people who aren't yet your customers asking the same question, potentially. So let's create this as a useful piece of content that we can put onto your blog. And whenever anybody asks that query, whether it's through your customer services team, whether it's on social media, whether it's somebody inquiring via your website, and looking around at what you do, they will be able to see your latest blog pull through, and they will be able to see and go and find that advice. Or indeed, we can share them and direct them to go and get the answer from the website, which of course brings that traction back to your website. So it's really useful for customer service and for answering questions to your customers that keep coming up, rather than continuously not wasting your time, but sharing time and spending time repeating and repeating. It's kind of a one-stop hub where you can direct people to get all of that great information. So it still bodes a lot. It still is a worthy hub for all of your content, because particularly when you're talking about your digital activity and particularly your social media activity, you want to drive people back to something. So what better to have created, let's just say, 20 blog post tips, and then each one of those tips is effectively a tweet, and each one of those tweets or each one of those Instagram stories or each one of those Instagram posts even could then be driving people back to your website to find the main story. And of course, if that blog is well optimized, it will, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, it will also include links within it, so that not too many, but a few links within it, so that people can naturally and organically find other pathways through to your content and to the information that they may want from your site. So it's used as a kind of social selling tool as well, because you are subtly guiding your reader as if taking them around a workshop, or through your store and saying, oh, have a look at this, have a look at that. Oh, and if you needed that more information on those, you just go over that way. And of course, you are allowing to direct those pathways. So it's a perfect resource, and it's a great place for everything to live. And it doesn't just have to be the written word. It could be, Sarah and I could take these lives and put them on our blog if we so wanted to, because there will be people who aren't on Facebook, but they do look at our website, and they may never see these lives. So we will repurpose some of these lives and put them on our blogs. So you can repurpose it as a blog. It could be an image, it could be an infographic, it could be an animated GIF, it could be your latest ad campaign, it could be anything now. Whatever you blog, it could be a live interview. It really is just thinking of the blog rather than the original weblog kind of word, more as your content hub. It is a content hub for you to store all of your content and maybe organize all of your content in a very, very centralized way. Another great thing it's useful for, some things that you may not have thought about, is employee engagement. So I've been working with an agency, and they have a number of employees, and they want to really encourage their employees to share their knowledge and to share their expertise, rather than, just keep it all hidden within. They want to celebrate the knowledge within their organization. Now, to do that, you could say, use social media, get your teams out onto LinkedIn, sharing articles, sharing tweets. But again, that can be a bit thin. Whereas if they are then sharing content and it's going on to the central content hub, the blog for the organization, that can then be shared from the corporate channels or the individual channels into whichever social media channels or other channels that you wish to share it into. So it also is useful for empowering team to become ambassadors, to enable them to share the word of mouth and the great work that you are doing. So there's lots and lots of different uses. And as I said, it can be that thought leadership piece. It can be a video. It can be an animation. It could be a live discussion. It could be an image, an infographic, an animated GIF. Anything can be the catalyst for that content, and it can be versatile. So think about it as that hub. And there are other hubs. There are things like Passel for sales and marketing that are specific around those topics. There's Medium, which many bloggers and many individuals turn to because they were fed up with all of the noise that was being created around blogging that was just, really diluting the value of the written word or the shared voice or the shared idea, turning it purely into a search engine optimization task. So, there are other platforms as well that you can check out. So let's go through some of these posts. I'm going to whisk through over the next 15, 20 minutes, some of the tips that I shared. So if you are blogging, let me know if any of these chime, or let me know. So the first thing is, if you are doing a written word, think about the topic, think about the user. Often now, I really quite like these blogs where it gives you the opportunity and it says, this is a 2-minute read, this is a 3-minute read, this is a 7-minute read. So you understand how long this post is going to go on. And obviously, if it's a video, people can quickly see the video and they can understand that. But if you are writing, that can be a nice tool, because everybody, it is an important thing. People want to know how long do they need to be committed to the piece. And more often than not, short pieces are a great introduction. So, the average word count, again, if you're going to be writing, can be anything between 300 words and 700 words, maybe sitting at a 500 word benchmark. But there are no rules. I mean, if you follow people like Seth Godin, sometimes he just writes a sentence in his blog. Sometimes he will write, pages and pages. So depending on the topic, depending on whether it's interesting, you will stick around for that content. But think about the user. Think about making sure that they are clear on what they're getting into. And I would say, if you're just starting out, keeping it shorter and punchy is probably a good idea initially, just to draw them in so that they can, it's almost like the teaser bit of the campaign. But don't get hung up on word counts. Professional writers, people who write blogs for a living would say anything between 500 to 800 words, 300 to 800 words is a good benchmark. But, I would say don't get hung up on it. Look at what other great bloggers do. And it's not always formulaic. And like I said, you can mix it up. One week it might be a written form, the next it might be a video, the next it might be a live, it could be a discussion. Whatever your content hub needs to be for you and your audience, importantly, then that's what you can do. So point number 2 I put is keep your posts varied. Keep your posts varied. So the point I've just made. Some posts that are very factual, drawing on information that will help the users, keep some light and humorous. Some, 5 top tips, 10 top tips. I mean, I think people did that thing to death. I mean, my 20 tips in blogging was written, 10 years ago. And at that time, every HubSpot a piece of advice or Hootsuite advice or, Social Media Examiner advice was all about people love 5 top tips, 10 top tips, Now, people still do like that. People still do, but just be mindful that that's not all you're doing. You could be sharing your checklist. You could be sharing a scorecard. You could be sharing some advice. And of course, don't feel that you have to start. You've probably got a lot of content already, FAQs, scorecards, checklists, reports, research. Think about what could then be blogified. Not sure that's a word, but blogified so that it sits in your content hub as well. Watch your spelling. This is super, super important. It does really hinder credibility. I never start to draft directly into a LinkedIn article or onto a blog form, a platform. I would always just start writing it in Word and, review it. I mean, the optimum time to review a written piece of content, trust me, I'm a writer, and I've written books, and I know how much you can improve every single time you look at a piece of content. So less is more. Try and look where you're adding in filler words that just don't need to be there. I'm an absolute demon for that. And so I always have to kind of read through, cut that, it's not meaning anything. Cut that, it doesn't mean anything. It's waffle. Cut the waffle. Yes, be conversational, but do watch your spelling. Really watch your spelling. If you see a typo, you can just about forgive it on Twitter because it's different. You can't edit on Twitter, but if you see a typo on a blog or on a web page, it really, really grounds and your credibility immediately drops. So just really watch your spelling and think about just go through. And there are things like Grammarly, there are tools like Grammarly that will help you to check your grammar and check your spelling. And but Word is really brutal on the spelling checks. So, just use that for your spelling as well. And as I say, get it right first and happy, and then post it up to a platform, because LinkedIn articles and blogging platforms often don't have spell checks built into them. Your website won't have a spell check built into it. It's expecting the content that is going up there to have been done. So make sure that you are doing that. So point number 4 I raised all these 10 years ago was, use images in a post to break up the text and add some relevant interest. Well, we all know the power of the image, don't we? And some of the sites that I shared were Flickr, iStock Photo, Photolio, some cheap yet very good quality shots. Now, it's interesting because I think 10 years later, they've all been swallowed up, I think, by Adobe. And so yes, of course there is, you will be able to go to Adobe if you're on the Adobe suite, and you can bring in your images from there. But a great place that I love to go is unsplash.com. It's almost what Photolia was all those years ago, and it's brilliant. Absolutely beautiful images. You credit the users, and they are really being very generous with the quality of the images that you can share. So yes, think about images. And sometimes I use images that are really a little bit off the wall, that don't necessarily, so if it's your map to, blogging still a key component of your content marketing strategy. I actually, when I put this post up and redid this post on the ODA, I did a whole picture of yellow ducks in a line, because it was really all about getting your ducks in a row, getting organized, and so that was my correlation. But it wasn't just a picture of a typewriter or a hand with writing the blog. So think about that. I've got some more comments here coming in. Great tips, Mitch. For your information, came up with 33 different types of content when I did some research a while back. There will be additions to that now. 33 different types of content. There absolutely is. I'd love you to share those 33 with us, whoever that is, Facebook user. But thank you. Look at that. I can add these in. So if you've got anything to share, I can bring it onto screen. Okay, create attention-grabbing headlines. So there was a piece of research that was done by BuzzSumo that I think looked at 10,000 different headlines as to what creates a great headline. And I've got that link, so I will share that with you into this thing, into the live, into the comments later. But the key thing for me is, yes, you have to really think about your headlines, because you want it to be questioning, perhaps, or it's got to engage. And ideally, the headline, like, for example, blogging, still a key component of your content marketing strategy, could be a question. Okay, so I could have raised that as a question as the title. I could have said why blogging is still a key component of your thing. 30 reasons why blogging is still a key component of your content. So you want something that does what it says on the tin, but also encourages the user in. And importantly, one of the rules that I've always used is the headline should really, unless you're going for complete intrigue, I mean, there is always that. You could go for complete intrigue, like, what the hell is this about? So that you're encouraging people to go into it. There are going to be people that love the intrigue or just think, can't be bothered. So, you are at a risk there. But always make the headline as kind of clear, so that if the person never read the post, they know what the post is about, the gist of that post. So give them enough. So it's a piece of advice I've always stuck to. I can't remember who shared it. I think it was at a Hootsuite event I went to, and they had some key major bloggers over. I think it was Brian Solis, actually, maybe, or it was back in the day. It was a long time ago, and it really stuck with me that imagine the user won't ever read the article, but they'll get enough out of the story, or out of the headline, to tell the story and pique their interest. So that was the piece of advice. So point number 6 was create keywords where you can. Now, back in the day, search engine optimization, you know, we would be talking about, 15% of your blog posts should be around keywords, you know. So if you're selling those green umbrellas, you want green umbrellas, green umbrellas, green umbrellas, you know, peppered throughout. You want to make sure those links are on those green umbrellas, taking people back to the green umbrellas on your website. And of course, there is still an element of that, but it has to be much more human and much more natural. And I would still say that in the first paragraph, ensure that there is a link through to, because some people do not want to read through your whole article. Some people, depending on what it is that you are talking about and what you're doing, some people will literally just want to say, well, I want to get to the next bit. You know, what is this tool that they've got? You know, whatever it is, some people will just naturally want to go off and do that. They are fast learners and they are very, very curious. So you want to meet their needs and ensure that for them, there is a link, you know, where they can get to where they need to. They want to progress quickly, let them progress. If they don't want to read the whole article to the bottom where there's a nice link that you've orchestrated, don't make that, don't force them off your page. Give them what they need at the beginning. And again, there might be natural organic ways and pathways where you naturally want to take people off. Now, depending on how long the article is, depends on how many of those that you would do. But now it's got to be so few less, you know, 2 or 3. Oh, it's Elizabeth Floyd. Hi, darling. 2 or 3 links, you know, maybe maximum throughout the body of the text. And then, of course, always have a really great sign off. You know, in the old PR days, they used to refer it to as a boilerplate. Michelle Carvill is a 5 times published author. She is also the founder of Carvill Creative. She's the co-founder of the ODA. And of course, in the byline, you can have links going off to all of that. Connect with her on LinkedIn, because this is at the bottom, and that is where the permission is to now go and find more. But of course, many people may not get to the bottom. So if you really have a call to action that you want people to do or get to, pepper them throughout, but do it in a non-salesy, non-spammy way, because, you know, Google are watching. The bots are watching the search engine optimization, but also from a user experience. If you're reading something, it's really difficult to read when everything's got links in it. You know, it's just impossible. It's just not a nice user experience. So always writing and engaging with humans rather than robots has always been my preference. Okay, so yeah, keep it going. Stick to a tight publishing schedule. I suppose back in the day that was, and it's still the same. I keep saying back in the day, but, you know, 10 years ago, a decade ago, it's still the same. It's consistency, isn't it? Consistency is key. Sarah and I show up every week to do our lunchtime lives. There is consistency. People can depend that we're going to do this. And if they can't jump in, they can watch it later. And there's always some fresh content on there, at least weekly, with something that we are teaching about. So, you know, so consistency is key. That's not changed. So if you are going to be sharing, work out a schedule. And then, you know, for me, I have to literally have the dates in my diary as to when I need to publish some content. And depending on what you are and what you're doing or how many people are in your team, you might pepper that. It doesn't have to be daily. It could be weekly. It could be monthly. It all has to work with what the intention is, what the objective is, and where your blog fits in, or this content hub fits in as part of your content strategy. So whatever that is, that will determine your frequency. And for some people, that has to be much more frequent than others. So, of course, so that is still very, very relevant. Point 8 was insert a call to action. And I said, you know, yes, do that. Nowadays, it's not so much subscribe to the blog, because people tend not to subscribe to the blog. But if I was sharing this live, I might say, come and join our group, you know, come and find out more about the ODA, So of course you can include that call to action on your posts. So like any marketing piece, you know, it's going to have your call to action. There were some things here about claiming your blog on Technorati and blog search and things, but they've all disappeared now. But you could add your blog, you could bring it to things like Medium or Passel if sales and marketing is useful for you. I'm just flicking through these because not all of these are relevant. Yep, share. I did say, you may want to share your blog URL on your business card. 10 years ago, people were doing that. And for some people, their blog was their online presence. That's what they were using rather than maybe a website. It was a kind of integrated piece. But now, of course, you would just be sharing onto Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and making sure that those links are in your post. And if you're on something like Instagram where you can only use one link, then it might be your link. You're using a tool like Linktree, so you can have lots of links. So link to our website, link to our latest blog, link to our YouTube channel, link to our whatever it is that you want to put in there. You can use Linktree to enable you to do that. What did I say here? And I said nothing to add. Yeah. Don't focus your posts point 12, try and provide one piece of practical how-to advice in each blog post. That way the user will learn that you are always going to provide something useful. That's not changed. And I mentioned that at the beginning. Whether you're positioning yourself as a thought leader, whether you're trying to grow authority in the space, whether you're just being useful for your customers, whether you're looking at selling your services, that piece of advice is timeless. Give, and then ask, So always be giving through your content marketing strategy. That is your pull marketing strategy, where you are getting people the opportunity to know you, like you, trust you, and draw them into your world. So nothing to add there. My views are still the same. Be creative with where you procure your content. If you've published materials offline, then create them online. I talked about this, you have to be careful about duplicate content if, for example, you're taking an old blog post and you are repurposing it. But, as long as there's way more new content in there, that's fine. Google will see what you've done. Well, they won't see what you've done, but the balance of content won't look like you've just ripped something off. So, you have to change as more than that. So that's fine. Follow the leader. If you find a respected and popular blogger or expert who focuses on areas you're interested in, then write a post commenting on their post. I mean, that's still relevant, isn't it? Happens all the time on LinkedIn, and that's really how you start to build out your relevant network and get yourself known in those relevant networks, by commenting and engaging. It's not always about curating. Some of the best posts I've done is where I've said, I saw something that Seth Godin wrote and this is what he wrote and this is my take on it. So be inspired by others and tag them in your post, and tag them when you share out your blog onto the social media, because they may, of course, then get interacting and share it into their audiences. So again, flattery is still a powerful way of not only, it's not just about flattery, it's about using others' expertise and then giving your view and sharing and then tagging them and say, I love this. Or you might be disagreeing with them, whichever way, it's still relevant. And what else would I say? Yeah. Be prepared to review lots of content, see what's working for others, and learn about content and learn about blogging and see what's working in your space. So true. Have a look at what your competitors are doing around blogging, if indeed they're doing anything. Look at where the opportunities are. So we covered a lot of insights there, lots of basic tools, still lots of things. That post is alive on the Online Digital Academy's blog, so you can just go to the Online Digital Academy site. I will put a link in. You can read the blog in full as to what was going on then, what's going on now. I've just highlighted a few of those key points out for you. But yeah, I suppose it's rethinking blogging now, isn't it, 2020? And what is blogging for you? So if there's anybody else got any comments they'd like to share, any questions about blogging, now is the time to ask them while I'm here live. But of course, if anything comes up afterwards, just tag me or Sarah in the post and we will, and if you're catching this on the replay, we will come back. So, in my view, blogging is still a key component of your content marketing strategy. It is a flexible hub for organic content, useful for your paid campaigns, still very relevant for search engine optimization, really useful for customer service, and of course, really useful for an employee engagement as well. So it is a hub. It is the heart of your content, and that heart of your content can live on your blog, in your website, so that then you've got that opportunity to introduce people to more about what it is that you do, getting people, always being useful, getting people to know, like, and trust you, pulling them in, by pushing out the links and sharing them on social media and through other channels, bringing, sharing with other experts, partnering. Guest blogging. We didn't talk about guest blogging, getting somebody to guest blog on your blog, you guest blogging on their blog. This is sharing of the content. We see that a lot happening in groups. People bring in a Facebook Live, somebody does a Facebook Live for them, they then go on their Facebook Live, and of course they're sharing this and introducing everybody to each other's audiences. Guest blogging is exactly the same. And so that is mainly the organic side. There are some, if you speak to an SEO expert, they're still going to talk about backlinks and various bits and pieces like that your blog can be. And if once upon a time, our blog got picked up by The Guardian. And it happened last year, actually. A blog that I did got picked up and the link was, in The Guardian, and they kept the link in, which is really unusual because most journalists don't do that now. And so it was kind of like, wow, we've just been picked up by The Guardian. So you never know where your content is going to go and who's looking at it and who's reading it when you share those links out there as well. So those backlinks from a SEO, people linking in good heritage sites, linking in back to your content and driving traffic back to your content, good quality sites, is all useful for your search engine optimization. But you've got to don't focus on that. Focus on writing for humans, writing great content, being useful, and making sure you are creating pathways throughout your content so that it starts to build a bigger story of who you are. So I hope that's been useful. 5 minutes over time. So I'm going to love you and leave you. If there are questions, then please feel free to share them. If not now, you can pop them in to the hub and into the conversation. And we will be back next week with Sarah. I can even tell you what topic we're going to have next week. We are going to talk about what is paid social, an introduction to all things social advertising. So not just Facebook. We're going to be introduction to paid social. So I suspect this is going to be covering, yes, Facebook, but LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, maybe a little bit on Pinterest, and maybe even TikTok. Who knows? So do join us next week for our wonderful Lunchtime Live. Thank you so much for those of you that have joined me live today. Thank you, Nicole and Elizabeth, for your comments. It's good to know I'm not speaking just totally to myself, but I'm quite used to that, so it's not a big deal. I'm not mad, promise. But I look forward to seeing you all soon, and any questions, just pop them in the comments. Have a great week. Speak soon.